Good evening, RFHL fans. Actually, I should probably say good morning because the first time any of you guys are going to see this will be probably Tuesday morning, I think is going to be the schedule going forward for these releases. But we are back post-draft, week 1 preview, getting things started for the fall RFHL Throwback 30 season. I'm your host tonight, 2.0. I've got some awesome guests with me tonight. I think you can see them on screen already, but I've got Brett and I've got Mark with me tonight. How you guys doing tonight? Brett, how you doing tonight?
Doing great. No complaints, just getting as much sleep as I can with the new one. So
hard to complain when the Bills get a big win like that. And,
yeah, true.
And the kids are sleeping, at least for now, right? So
yeah.
Mark, how about you? How's it going?
I'm good. Excited for another season. Ready to go. I
was commenting on Mark's awesome. That is not a green screen background. Mark's got all his shirts hanging, and they look pretty awesome. And I was thinking about how that's a pretty cool idea. That might be something worth thinking about going forward. But yeah, we are back. It is post draft, and hey, what a wild ride that draft was. I think I talked about it a little bit in the draft preview when I was on the show with Mayor. And I think even Rob and Rob both talked about it a little bit during the draft, the live draft show. But hey, goalie drafts, it's been a while since we've done one, and goalie drafts are always a wild ride. I mean, it is a completely, I'm sure there were several people watching who were probably wondering what the heck was going on. I know the Fridmans were like at the baseball game or something and watching it live at the Red Wings game. But yeah, it's a wild ride. Brett, you've been a part of one of those before. Do you agree? Like, what do you think about like goalie drafts in general like that?
So I'm not going to lie. I kind of hate being a captain just for the draft reason. Like, I mean, doing fantasy football and everything, I love drafting. Like, it's my favorite part of the year, but I'm always the type that I've got a plan on like what I'm going in with. And I think my second or third draft got totally blown up, actually, ironically, by Conco. He picked like every person I wanted. So it's just, you go in with a plan, and then as I'm sure you guys know / found out, it just totally goes off the rail, like 2 picks in. And then you're like, oh crap, the team I wanted is all gone.
Yeah, I'm a person who plans quite a bit, and then when it comes time to do the draft, I realize that plan isn't going to really stick around much either. So I'm sure all of you noticed, I saw everybody showing up with iPads and notebooks and cheat sheets and all of that, and I showed up with nothing, and I needed to borrow a pen and a piece of paper to keep track of what I was doing, because I usually get a good lead on things ahead of time and get an idea what I want to do, but it never goes to plan. And so, Mark, is this your first? This isn't your first time captaining, is it?
Yes,
it is. It is.
Yeah.
And how'd that feel being in the draft room?
It was very interesting. Like Brett said, it wasn't. I don't like being a captain, but it was something we had to do, and it was definitely a different feeling. It definitely, like everybody said, you have this plan, you think, this is what you're going to do. And then all of a sudden now you got to go to plan B and plan C. So, but it was a great experience, and I'd probably do it again if I had to. But definitely I wouldn't raise my hand again for captain, but it should be a good season, and I'm very excited for it.
I'm laughing over here because I know I'm going to hear it when somebody previews this before they post it, and Sweet's going to be like, I don't know, I didn't realize I had a whole bunch of captains who didn't want to be a captain or something like that. So we're starting strong. Week 1, I've got 2 guests already that didn't even want to do the captaincy, but yeah, it was, I think, a fun idea to try to go back to do the goalie draft again. It's been a long time since we did one. I know that there were several kind of surprised sounds on stage during the spring awards and post finals banquet when Sweet said that I would be going back in the net, but he actually asked me before I think spring season even started if I would be interested in doing it, because he told me about what he wanted to do. And he said, it's been a while and I want to get some of those guys who have been in the league for a long time, since it's a throwback season, to do it. So will you go back in the net? And I said, I guess. So I like being a captain, but I was reluctant about getting back in the net and just having to lug the equipment. But also I feel it more than I used to. And it's a different ball game when you're out on the floor and you get used to not having to put all that stuff on. But I love drafting. I mocked a couple times. I don't know if you guys did any mocks or anything like that. Did you guys do any kind of pre-plan? No, none at all.
No, I think I had a top 4 that I had basically planned out. And then, like I said, it just kind of all goes to crap, but.
Yeah. And I think it goes wonky like that because there's always that one or two picks that really just surprise you. Like I think I was talking a little bit ahead of the show here that, sometimes you see a guy who's captaining and they'll pick a player and reach for a player maybe because it's a certain style that they want, especially as goalies in goalie drafts. You see people pick for their style. They pick for their preference. Were there any picks that really like jumped off the page at you, that really like kind of surprised you right out of the gate? And I'll start this question off with actually Mark, since it was your first draft. Was there anything that kind of surprised you, since you've always been an observer and now you kind of were in the room?
The first couple picks weren't really surprising, except yours. I believe you picked. I'm trying to think.
I picked the rookie. Yeah, I picked the rookie, Steve Leduc.
Yep. And then just to see, because we all know Brad, and just to see him just keep going and keep falling down. And I think he was picked 6th, I think. But that was a pretty big surprise. Usually, and I know everybody was kind of like looking at me like, why didn't I pick Brad? Or I don't know. But my plan, and I'll let this was my plan from the start. I just really wanted to pick people that I hadn't played with before. So it that was my plan going in, and I kind of followed it. But, I think that was the biggest surprise. Just seeing Brad, go all the way down. I think everybody was kind of going around the room like, what's going on here? But it was very interesting.
There were some murmurs starting, especially as that was continuing. Brett, what do you think?
Well, I mean, we might get into it a little bit more later, but I guess you kind of touched on it that like goalie drafts are a little different. That you have goalies that are picking very specific styles, and I'll speak to my own draft that kind of too playing with different players. Like I played with Brad recently, and I'll be honest, when I mocked, I was like, Brad's not making it to me. So like, it wasn't even a thought in my mind to even consider that. And then when, the first 3 passed, I was like, man, like it's so hard to pass up on Brad. Like it was killing me, but I figured I'd been on a team with Furlano before, and we did really well, which ironically actually was A Tribe Called Quest before. So if he made it to me, Furlano was kind of my pick the whole time, but I didn't think it would be quite so hard with Brad sitting there. So I guess that would be my wild card, was just Brad falling so far, which I'm sure will be a pretty common sentiment among the league. But it wasn't for lack of wanting him, for sure, because he made it about as hard as he could not to draft him there.
Admittedly, it was very hard for me too, because he was my, like all of my planning leading up to the draft was hoping that I would be able to get Brad at 3. And a lot of that relied on wondering, because I'm actually, I gotta say, Mark, one of the things I was mocking was, I said, who's a first rounder that Mark hasn't played with before. And I kept mocking you. Like literally, I mocked you like 3 or 4 different people, and they were always someone you hadn't played with yet. And I knew you played with Brad before, so I was kind of hoping that that would play out and I'd end up with Brad. But I was doing every single mock expecting Steve Leduc to go first overall, not only because Matt knew him, but also because I don't know if you guys saw in that rookie game, but I felt like he's going to insert himself pretty quickly to be one of those top tier, first round for sure guys, and could push for, making some tough decisions at the, the top half or even middle of that first round going forward. So I was pretty excited about that. And I felt bad because I was talking to Brad pretty much all day leading up to the draft, about what I was hoping to do and go for. So I hope he doesn't take it out on me too bad, but I think he's going to take it out on at least 5 of us, because there's no way him dropping, all the way down to 6 is not going to light a fire under his butt. So I guess maybe this is a good time, to pull up, and we'll jump right into what this post-draft looks like for the RFHL. Before we get into our weekly previews, I thought we could talk about what the draft rosters look like. Again, we've already talked a little bit about some of those surprises that we're looking at. But you should be seeing on screen now the full rosters post-draft here now. They are still in order. So, of course, remember the draft snakes, left to right, right to left, top to bottom. And one of the other ones that stood out to me was Alex taking essentially also a rookie in Frankie Golajush in the first round. And I say rookie because he's played in the RFHL plenty as a goalie, but he's never played in the RFHL as a forward. So, and also Frankie was not at the rookie game. So Alex is kind of buying a sight unseen his first round house here. So that one stood out to me too. But looking at these rosters, I want to ask you guys, what do you think about your team? I know you already alluded a little bit to what you were looking forward to trying to build or make on your team. But what is it that you're excited about or enjoyed being able to piece together as that draft went on? And this time I'll start with you, Brett.
So like I said, I played with Furlano before on A Tribe Called Quest, which, if we hadn't had a concert thrown in there, I think we probably would have won that year. But I believe it was Jeff Burge had to miss because of the concert. So he was someone I was targeting, hoping was there. His play kind of speaks for itself. And then I kind of wanted like a Jeff Burge type, which I think Dr. K kind of fits in. He can kind of quarterback back there. Really solid defense. And then I got to the 4th round, I guess. And I was like, man, I got 2 guys that play pretty similar styles. Like, let me just throw someone that's got sick hands and is going to pass and be super smart and know where to go. And that's kind of where Jesse was just sitting there screaming for me to pick him. Hopefully he lights Steve up when he plays him too. But no, honestly, like everyone that was there, like super solid, no real question marks. They all kind of know, like Keller's played ice hockey before. I actually haven't played with, and sorry if I butcher your name, but Haruski. But I've heard good things about him too. And obviously, Ellen's play speaks for herself too. So, I top to bottom, I feel like I got a lot of hockey sense and a good balance between those kind of gritty, knows where to go, can clean up the net, and then those guys that can kind of space the floor and pass. So a lot of versatility, I guess, is what I was trying to go for.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off or butt in there for a second, but I'm glad you mentioned Ellen too, because every single season she's gotten better. Every single season, more confidence. And so I expect the same. I expect that this team in front of her is really going to help with that too. I think you've got a good squad that can really play off of each other well and learn from each other. I think you're going to see a lot of flow on your team is a good word that I might think of when I look at that roster. So yeah, Mark, how about you? I know you said you were looking to maybe pick guys you hadn't played with much before, but what do you think of that roster?
So I was also looking for a balance of, you get a couple veterans, then you get a couple players that, have been in the league for, 4 or 5 seasons, and then throw in a rookie. So I think I found that balance. Paul Paradine, Kyle Antilla, and Brian D'Angelo, they've all played over 100 games. And then we got the rookie Brendan. He looked good in the rookie game. He's got some, he's able to, pass, and he can kind of see the vision of, the floor. And then it's kind of like Mike Curry. This is his second season. So, he's going to build off of his first season. And then me and Dan Thiesing, we've been in the league for 6 or 7 seasons. So we're kind of veterans, but, we've played, but there's still a lot to learn. So I just think we have a great balance, and we're going to feed off of each other, and I think it's going to go very well.
I got to ask you, we were in the 4th round, and it was my turn to pick. Right after Brett had picked, I said bread. And if you don't know, my daughter, my oldest daughter, sometimes calls Brett brother bread. And it's just been this running joke for a little while. So sometimes it just sneaks out like that. So right before Bread picked Jesse, or right after, you were looking at me, and I took a little bit to make my 4th round pick. And you said to me, just do it. You want to do it. You're going to take them. And then I picked the person I was thinking about the whole time. And you go that, and I go, was that it? And you go, no. So I'm curious, was it Brendan you thought I was going to snag there? You don't remember that, do you?
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember.
That's all right. That speaks volumes to the way a goalie draft goes, because we were bantering quite a bit in there too, and of course Conco was spoiling picks ahead of everybody else, and it was a fun time. We had a lot of laughs that night. Yeah, I when I look at your team, I see a lot of good players that will complement each other. I agree. Brent looked pretty good in that rookie game. He seemed to be holding his own out there, and he was playing pretty well with some of the guys, obviously, that he's never played with before. So it'll be interesting to see. You were talking about a team of experience and having lots of games under their belt, and I picked a team that everybody kind of started to joke, are you just going to pick all the rookies? And I kept going and going, and everybody was looking at me like, what are you doing? So I do got to say that going into the draft, maybe this might help with understanding where my head was at with these picks. I was going into the draft thinking that I absolutely want one of those, like top tier elite guys who are going to be able to do whatever is needed in the situation. Do they need to rip it? They can rip it. Do they need to make the pass or the play? They can make the pass or the play. When I was playing net for that rookie game, Steve Leduc scored on every single shot he took against me. And I thought to myself immediately, I'm not looking forward to having to play against him. And then having the chance to pick him, I thought, you know what, let's see how this goes. But my whole entire plan was to try to pick my first and second rounders. To me, were the most key part, because I lost that 3rd round pick, which is kind of one of the more pivotal picks in a draft. Your 3rd round pick is kind of your make or break for the style of your team. What are you going to go for? Are you going defensive? Are you going kind of firepower and offense? So my first 2 picks, I kept thinking to myself, all I want to do is make sure that I have 2 high level hockey sense guys, 2 guys who will always be able to think, should I pass? Should I look for the shot? Do I need to possess? Do I need to push the pace? Any of that. But just 2 players that would be able to play well together. And when I was watching Stephen Foss out there, I got a lot of sense that he was kind of similar to John. He looked a lot like John playing out there. And so I kept thinking to myself, if he's even in that same realm, then this is a home run. So I wanted to pick him because he clearly looked like the kind of guy who would be able to take that shot when he knew he had to. He looked like he had a good shot. But he also seemed like the kind of guy who had that hockey sense, who could pass with Leduc or any of the other guys on the team. And then going from there, I have been able to see, I might have had a little bit of a advantage in the fact that I have been able to see Chris play before. He did play, I think, once or twice over the summer as a sub for the ball hockey at Westgate. So I got to see him running around with a stick that isn't a goalie stick. And so he did strike me as the kind of guy who's just really balanced. I'm excited to have him. He seems like a hustle, good balance. He can take a good shot when he needs to. He's a good passer. He had decent hands and he battled well. So I thought he was, again, that kind of balanced glue guy that you have to get in those middle rounds that really tie in your style. And then I was able to get Fish and Kurt with those long shots that they've got and good defense. And then Shane, I was joking in the draft, picking Shane. I think there were several of us who were a little afraid to pick Shane because we're worried about the law of averages finally kicking in, and knowing that he's on a three-peat and going for 4 in a row and thinking, geez, if I draft him, does it mean we're not going to win? Because 3 in a row has never happened. How the hell knows this 4 in a row is going to happen? But yeah, I had to do it. It was just way too late to pick a guy like that. He's such a team guy. And it was way too late to get Kurt in the 7th too. So, I felt like I got lucky with a lot of what fell my way for our picks on the Masturbators. So, as for the other teams, what other teams stick out to you? If you had to pick one other team that really stands out to you that you're looking forward to, or maybe not looking forward to playing against, what would that team be? Mark, which team stands out to you?
Just looking at them, I'd have to say probably Limp Biscuits. With John Foes, you got Matt and Net, George and Steve, and then you got Rob Anders, John Blotzer, Bob Hartman. It seems like a pretty good, solid team. You got a lot of guys that are going to be running, a lot of guys that are going to be sitting in front of the net, creating traffic. And I don't know any goalie that likes that. But that's probably the team that that I would, I like a challenge, but John Foes, you can always put him in whenever he wants. But I think that's going to be a pretty good team right there.
Brett, what about you? What team is really standing out as a team that you don't want to play against, or that you do want to play against? What stands out to you?
So I guess I'll cheat and do 2 teams, and for different reasons, I guess. So Alex's team, just with Frankie being kind of a wild card, if he plays up to a first round, talent, and then you got Jake, who's got an awesome shot. Bill's got an awesome shot. Rob's no slouch. Glenn, I don't know how he was there in the 6th round, to be honest. And Austin looked pretty good in the rookie game too. I just like a sneaky team that I think, I guess it kind of depends on how it all gels, but I don't know. Especially, maybe it's just Jake's shot, because he does that wraparound shot where he just gets it off so quick. I kind of hate his shot more than anyone's, ironically. And then just because I think Brad's going to be on a warpath this year, Brad with Kaz in the net, he's one that's always tough to play against. You're playing that, don't let up 2 goals, because, he's only let up 1 and you have to keep within 1 of him. I love Huron. Huron's awesome. I was hoping he would make it to me. Bob Haynes, Shane, Dave Foes, Sean, just all solid guys, top to bottom. There's really not a weakness on that team, to be honest. So as far as matching up in totality, I would say probably Manitoba. And then just personally getting shot at and kind of the wild card factor, I would say Alex's team, Iron Thrones.
Yeah, those are good points. For me, one of the teams that really stands out, I'm going to kind of cheat as well and mention 2 of them. I was talking about in the draft or post-draft with a couple of guys that Good Morning Vietnam, to me, strikes me as the speed and forecheck equivalent of Fukushima 2.0. We were joking about last season about how Fukushima was just grinder and grinder and grinder and grinder all on the same team. Brandon drafted a team that is just going to be entirely the never give up, forecheck, speed, hustle, right on you, no space kind of team. And I think that's exactly the kind of team that's going to work well together to help make sure Good Morning Vietnam has those, chances to be in every single game. They're just going to be relentless out there. And I'm already not looking forward to having to, well, actually in net, I don't have to worry about that because it's my guys who got to worry about it. But I'm also not looking forward to the fact that that's the kind of team that can turn a play and counterattack on you really fast as well. And so you're never going to be able to sit and take a breath when you're in net with a team like that. But I also want to point out Conco's team, because I think one of the things that's really overlooked with Conco's team, if that's the right word for it, is that nothing on the page, I don't want this to come out the wrong way, nothing stands out like crazy, but then you think about how much experience is on that team and how many of those guys have played together before and are already going to gel. And then you kind of mix in the fact that, Chatterton is a crazy good pick for round 5. He's a crazy good pick in round 5 because he's a good defender. He's got a great shot, and I usually see him make the right play. He's always looking to make the right play, whether it's pass or shoot. Of course, he's got that natural connection with Jeremy. But Conco also going for the Dan Hook speed and crazy plays that he makes right out of the gate, and then instantly pairing that with one of the top defenders in our league, Paul Fridman, who's going to limit the amount of shots he sees. He's going to also be a quick and kind of good forechecker. Paul, I will say, he gets the reputation for being a defender, but I've had him on my team a couple of times in recent seasons, and he consistently surprises me with his offense. And maybe it doesn't show up as stats, but I mean that in the sense that he's got a nose for the net. He really puts pressure on defenders because of his movement and the wherewithal to be in the right places at the right time. And don't sleep on that with him being, someone who I think usually just comes across as, oh, he's going to block shots and he's going to play good defense, but he can put some pressure on you. And then Cody and Kenton, when Kenton's going to be on the floor and Cody are out there, both of those guys are kind of relentless too. Kenton in his own way will battle for everything in a corner. And Cody strikes me as the guy who I think each season is going to get better and better on the stat sheet. But so far, his contributions haven't really shown up on the stats as much, but they do show up in how fast he plays, how good his hands are. He's got good hands. He actually reminds me a lot of Jesse Trito. He reminds me a lot of how Trito plays when he's out there. So it'll be interesting to see. And I think we can all agree that all these teams look like they're going to be tough right out of the gate. We always talk about how the teams feel pretty even, and that's a testament to how the draft works. Any last thoughts on the rosters before we move on to previewing this week's matchups? Mark, anything else on these rosters?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Everything looks pretty even, and that's what's great about this league is, every season everybody's on different teams, and but you get a feel for it all, and looking forward to it. It should be a good year.
Brett, anything else you want to share about the rosters before we move on?
Yeah. So 2 things, I guess, and I'll try not to drone on too long, but kind of piggybacking off what Mark said, like every team, I feel like more and more we do this, that every team I look at, I'm like, man, like that team looks pretty good. And I look at another team like, man, that team also looks pretty good. I'm like, well, is that team going to gel? But hey, they've got this guy, like across the board. I think every team's got, maybe a question mark or two that might hold them back, but also 2 or 3 things that you're like, man, that's really going to work. And then just to kind of piggyback off your last point about Sarnia, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you were trying to get at, they're not like a team like a John Foe's team where they're just going to deke around you and score, 10 goals on their own. Like that kind of hard to play against, but they don't have that like firepower, I guess, quote unquote. But they're going to be a team that is just, every guy is hard to play against. Like they're just so, and not in a physical way, I guess, per se, but just knows where to be. They're not going to give up, many turnovers. You're going to have to capitalize on every single opportunity you get. Nothing's going to be easy, and they're all smart players that know what they're doing, I guess.
Yeah. Well, if you're watching at home live after it drops on Tuesday morning, now's the time do us a favor, do the league a favor, make sure you leave comments on the YouTube videos, because it helps these hockey related videos get out there to other people who maybe don't have the page on their subscribe list yet. If you haven't done that yet, make sure you get the bell on, make sure you click on those notifications, but leave a comment right now as you're watching the video. If you're right at this point and you're listening in for the first time, what team do you think or do you like the most so far on paper, or what teams do you think might be, I don't know, pick like your finals matchup, something like that. But leave a comment about the rosters that you see here and which ones you guys like as you're watching. So I'm just going to move in real fast now to that the week one matchups we were talking about. It's always toughest to preview the first week because you haven't seen these teams play together yet. I think it's going to be even tougher this season. You guys were talking already about the different rosters and what to anticipate on them. And I think one of my advantages is that half my team is a complete unknown for most people. So we'll see how that plays out, if it's an advantage or not. But for the first week, that first 6:30 matchup, we've got Brett's A Tribe Called Quest coming into play Conco's Sarnia Sting at 6:30. Guys, great matchup right out of the gate. The longest tenured goalies, I think, in the goalie draft out of all the captains, the two goalies that have played the most, the two goalies that have won the most. I think you both are the only goalies that have 100 career or more wins in the RFHL. Right out of the gate, we've got some of the best goalies matching up against each other in the very first game of the night. This one might even be my game of the week already. We haven't even looked at the other ones, but I might have to pick this one as a game of the week. It'd be low-hanging fruit to ask you first, Brett, for your thoughts, but I want to hear Mark talk about this matchup first. Mark, what do you think about this 6:30 game?
I think it's going to be a tough game. Like Brett said about Sarnia Sting, every one of them battles. So it's that free puck in the corner. You know, it's going to be a battle, and especially for the first game of the first week, everybody's trying to get their legs. You know, it's going to be very interesting. But I think, you know, and especially the goalie battle, like you said, you're both 1-2 in the wins. It'll be interesting to see. But you want me to call a winner now or no?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, it's go for it. Hey, we're flying by the seat of the pants, just like we did in the draft. So,
all right, I think the Tribe Called Quest pulls it out. I think they do.
All right, buttering up bread over there, the buttery bread, Brett. What do you think about your matchup?
I mean, I kind of talked about it a little bit with teams, and then Mark touched on it too. Like, I think this is probably going to be a low-scoring affair, and I mean, I can't believe we kind of neglected to mention it, but I feel like Conco at full health, which maybe that's why we decided on a 3 for him. Like, if he's at his top notch, he's easily a second round goalie and like a top 2 or 3 goalie in the league. So, and kind of fits in with that theme of that team. Like, he's going to make saves that you're like, how did you get over to that? You're wearing, you know, leg pads the size of Tic Tacs, like. But yeah, I think it'll be
equipment, huh?
Yeah. I think he wears it as a badge of honor, to be honest. But yeah, I think good matchup right out of the gate for us. It's going to test us. I guess I'll say I'll take the win. I'll say we win in a nail biter. You know, last minute goal. I'm gonna say 6-5.
Oh yeah, low scoring. Okay, I like that. And to be honest, it'd be hard for you not to take your own team, right? You can't take the other team. What are you what are you telling the rest of your guys right out of the gate as a captain like that? Yeah, I also agree. I think this one's going to be low scoring. I'm glad you touched upon, you know, Conco coming back. We all saw, I think, what happened with him, and I think it's just crazy. I want to say inspiring, but I'm also pushing 40, so I don't know how much more inspired I can be. But I want to say that it's crazy to even think that Conco is going to get out there between the pipes, play a game in net, and really be ready to go. But even when he is 75-80%, he's still one of the best goalies in the league. So I don't think that your game is going to be very high scoring, even though you have high scoring potential on your team. Dan can score, Cody can score, Paul can score, anybody can score for Sarnia, but you could say the same for your team. You've got Furlano and some of those, Jesse, who they can just create something out of nothing. And you're making a face, so it made me wonder if I almost said something wrong there. But I just want to say that I think your team will, both your teams will be stifled more than they should be and will be for the rest of the season. I think you're both going to have low scoring game here. I'm going to say that I think Tribe Called Quest pulls this one out. Equally low scoring, but I think it's going to be a 7-5 final score for that one. So moving into 7:30, we've got Mark's Phoenix Coyotes going up against Kazmark's Manitoba Moose. Another crazy, powerful matchup. First rounders, Paul going up against Brad, and both teams we talked about balanced. Brett, what do you think of this matchup?
I think this is going to be another close one. I mean, I feel like the theme might be close matchups as we're going through this, but you got that firepower right on those first two picks. Just solid players. I mean, D'Angelo, in the 5th round? Like crazy that he made it that far. And then like I talked about, Bob Haynes in the 5th round, like Haran, these guys that all just kind of got pushed down. I gotta say, I give a slight edge to a pissed off Brad. So sorry, Mark. You better be ready to play.
Yeah, I think I think there's going to be some bulletin board material just from the draft for him, for sure. Mark, what do you think about your matchup?
I was, thinking the same thing when everybody was saying, Brad was going to have revenge for everybody. And then I looked at the schedule and I was like, oh, wow, we get game 1. But it should be a good game. They got a good team. I played with Sean Petrie last year. I've played with Brad and Bob on the same team. They're a force to be reckoned with. But I think we can answer that. I think we've got, Paul Paradine. He leads the league in goals and points. He can, he's not afraid to shoot, but he can also pass. We got Kyle Antilla running around the floor. Brian D'Angelo, we're going to be, I think we'll, it might take us a while to get some flow going, kind of get some chemistry, but, I can't pick against my team. But I think it'll be a hard fought game, just like the 6:30 game. And like we said, this theme of close games, I think it's going to be throughout the season. So, but yeah.
Yep. Yeah, this is another one that I think is going to be really tough. And I'll keep it brief so that we can keep moving along here. But if I had to pick a score, I think it's going to be another close game. And it's hard for me to pick against Manitoba to start. I'm sorry, Mark. I might have to go out of the gate Manitoba with let's call it I'm going to say 7-5 again. That might be a reoccurring theme with all these good goalies here, but 7-5, I think Manitoba might take it. I just, I get a lot of sense that the hockey knowledge and hockey sense on that team is going to be very powerful for them. Guys who know how to move and make the right play and set each other up pretty well. So be ready, Mark. That's your warning. That serves both ways. So
yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, so 8:30, we've got Iron Thrones matching up against Good Morning Vietnam. Another interesting matchup of kind of mid first round picks. We've got not mid skill level, but like middle of the rounds. But we've got the unknown. What are we going to get out of Frankie and the rest of Iron Thrones going up against the speed demons of Good Morning Vietnam? Mark, what do you think about this one?
This one's a little interesting because of the Frank being picked in the first round. I think Alex knows a little more than we know. I think he's gonna, rely on Frank. I'm sure he's got speed. He's really got endurance. He's gonna be running around the floor. I've never seen him play. I don't know how his shot is, but you got Jake, you got Bill Smith, Glenn Friedman, he plays great defense. Rob Maston, and then the rookie Austin. It'll be interesting to see how everybody gels together. But Good Morning Vietnam. They have, they got Sweets. He runs around. He's got a shot. They got Lasagna, Dave King, and then Brandon and Net. This one, man, this one's a tough one too. I'm going to say Iron Thrones. I think Frank's going to surprise us. And I'll go with Iron Thrones.
All right, Brett, what do you think about this 8:30 matchup?
So I think this is going to be probably the biggest wild card of the night. Again, kind of touching on Frankie is a little bit of an unknown, but kind of a lot of guys that I don't think have really played together, if I'm remembering correctly, on that team. And I think just between that and, Good Morning Vietnam is a lot of guys that are running around all over the place, even though a good hockey sense might create a little more bounces, one way or the other that they're going to clean up on, the other team's going to capitalize, go the other way. So I wouldn't be shocked if this is a more high scoring game. Just to make it interesting, because I think this is truly a coin flip, I'll go Good Morning Vietnam.
Oh, all right. I'll keep this one brief again too, because you guys both touched upon good points and pretty much what I was thinking about. There's a lot of unknowns with Iron Thrones. And then I think there's a lot of knowns with Good Morning Vietnam. But it's going to be how all of those things match up, and if they match up the way that the goalies and of course their teams want them to go. But I think this one is actually going to be the higher scoring affair of the night. And I think that's only a testament to the floor capabilities that are out there. And because there's going to be speed and firepower on either side. But I do want to say that for my pick, I think I'm going to go with Good Morning Vietnam. I think that speed's going to be very relentless, and I think that it might wear teams down. I think the only way to really counter that amount of speed and forechecking is going to be a team that can play smart and patient and possessive. Really just limit Good Morning Vietnam from touching and having the puck is going to be the way that you kind of eat away the clock and pick your chances. But I'm going to take Good Morning Vietnam, and I'm going to say that it's going to be, I want to say it'll be, it's called a 13-10 win for Good Morning Vietnam. I think it's going to be a higher scoring one. All right, last but not least, we've got my Masturbators versus the Limp Biscuits, and that's your 9:30 RFHL After Dark, we joke, game of the late night game of RFHL. Brett, what do you think about this one, and how do you think it's going to go?
So, I just got done saying the last matchup was maybe the biggest wild card, but I guess I kind of forgot that your team is literally an entire wild card of guys. So, I'll say your team individually might be the biggest wild card. But I don't know. I don't want to totally crap on you, I guess. But I mean, you haven't played goalie in a while, and then you're going up against John Foss in your first matchup. So, I hope you're ready, buddy. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
I want to say this is maybe in that in between slot where we're not quite that 4 or 5 goals each team. I think maybe 9-8, 10-7, something like that. Just because I can't, in good faith, pick your team, I'm gonna have to go with Limp Bizkits here. Just little father-son dig there.
It's all right. Hey, just so you know, Brett will not be joining the podcast for the rest of the season. So, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Mark, what do you think? How do these? What do you think of this matchup?
Well, like Brett said, this I believe is the biggest toss-up game. Because we saw, both Steves in the rookie game. They do have a lot of hockey skill, but once you get into the gym and that puck, it acts way different than it does on ice. How you react to it, how you run with it. I think it takes them maybe a period or two to get going, but I think once your rookies figure it out, they got Fish, they got Shane, they got Kurt, they got you in net. I know, John Foes is there, and everybody else, but I'm going to take you guys, Master Vaders. I think the rookies are going to surprise us. I think once they get that first period and a half in and they start figuring it out, I think it's going to be a surprise game.
I actually do appreciate Brett, going back to some of the things that you said, because first of all, I'll lead off by saying I'm not going to pick against my own team. I think we can pull this out, but I say pull this out because I do think on a team of unknowns, the biggest unknown is going to be how well I can get back into net. And I played the rookie game as a kind of a warm up or a chance to get in net and get a feel for it again. But I will admit it's been a little while. And so I think that out of all the unknowns that we have on the rookies on the team, one of the things that I saw makes me feel better about those unknowns than I do feel about myself. And I just don't know how that's going to go. And I hope my team has patience as I get back into the groove of it. But I won't pick against us, but I will say that I will be surprised and happy if I can keep us in single digits for my first game back in net. I think that would be an all right goal to try to go for, but I would still be surprised if it happens. So it's going to be a tough one. But I think it's going to be, it might even be a closer one than you think. And maybe it'll be another high scoring one. Who knows? Then again, they've got Matt and net and that's usually not a high scoring game. So it'll be a tough one. Hey, just as a couple of reminders before we wrap things up, keep the school clean, guys. Pick up after yourselves. Make sure that water bottles in, water bottles out. Any of your trash finds the trash bins. You do have access to the cafeteria. There's big trash bins over there. Keep the stage nice. If you're there for the 9:30 game, please help tear things down. Make sure you bring a net over, grab a couple chairs off the stage, whatever we got to do to put the place back together again. It really helps out. But hey, before we wrap things up, I do have a couple of questions since it's the Throwback 30 season. I wanted to ask a couple of kind of nostalgia questions. Brett, you're one of the longest tenured players in the RFHL. But Mark, you've been around for plenty of seasons already. And so I want to ask you guys, we'll start with Mark. What's been your favorite logo, or what's your favorite logo that you see? I know our logo this season kind of incorporates all of them. But has there been one in particular that really stands out to you?
I would have to say the board game season. I think that's what it was. Yeah.
It's right behind you. It's on the wall behind you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I like that logo. That was probably my favorite one.
Yeah, that was very clever. The way the font being the Game of Life and Connect 4 and all that stuff. That was a good one. Brett, logo, which one was your favorite?
So I'm going to go with the wrestling one for two reasons. One, because I thought it was a little different, that the logo was a belt on the shirt and it was like kind of towards the bottom, like a wrestling belt. The other reason is because it did not come out at all how they planned. For the guys that know, it is super tiny. It looked awful. But I guess that's just endearing to me. So I'd go with that one just for those two reasons.
It was kind of a toss up for me. It was very, very difficult. As you probably have seen, because I'm now on my second team incorporating some sort of Star Wars pun. I'm a big like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings nerd, that kind of person. So it was really hard for me not to love that Stormtrooper mask logo from the space season. as my top pick. But if I had to pick a 1B and it was a real toss up between these two, I also loved that logo where they incorporate, it was the fast food season logo. So it was the Wendy's logo where they took the face and turned it into like the Jason goalie mask. And I just still think that that's one of the best logos I've seen on a shirt. And you know, the jerseys or different things you could order that season. There were some hoodies walking around with that logo on it. And I thought that was a really cool one. I like that a lot. But hey, speaking of logos, before I move on to that second nostalgia question for you guys. Oh, and yeah, if you're listening in on the YouTube, you know, make sure now leave a comment too. What was your favorite logo? What's the logo that's really stood out to you so far? But hey, did either of you guys figure out the Easter egg in the podcast intro? Did you figure it out?
Nope.
No. All right.
No. And now I feel like if I watched it again, I would totally get it in 2 seconds. But
All right.
Actually, not to backtrack, but real quick. So that fast food one, am I remembering correctly? Was that the one they messed up? That it was RHFL and not RFHL?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's
like
right. Another one that almost the ones that get messed up are kind of my favorite because they're just, you know, they have this great idea and then something like that happens and it's just hard not to laugh at it. But
yeah, you're right. There was one, and I do think it was that one where the letters got jumbled up and nobody noticed for like the first couple of weeks, I think. So
yeah.
So hey, anyways, going back to that Easter egg with the intro, I'm not gonna tell you what it was, but I still want people to guess on the YouTube page. And as we watch this and talk about it in Discord for the next couple of days, once it goes out, keep looking, keep trying to figure it out. And we'll see if anybody figures it out. And maybe we'll reveal it after a couple of weeks if nobody's figured it out. I wasn't told what it was, but figured it out. And it's very clever, like genius level clever. It was pretty cool. All right, so nostalgia question number 2 for you guys. What's been your favorite team you've played on so far? Brett?
I mean, for 2 reasons, I feel like that's kind of hard to narrow down just because, you know, I guess at this point, not to age myself, but I feel like I've played on so many different teams and I feel like I'm notoriously bad at remembering what teams I was on. So I guess I want to say my favorite one would be Heart Foundation, which was that wrestling season. I was on Joe Gant's team, which, you know, playing with a guy like that is always fun. That just, you know, you can go score it and takes a lot of pressure off you as the goalie. But that was also the year that we stopped an undefeated Quebecer's team in the championship. They had been undefeated up until that game. So that one's always pretty fun to be able to say that we kind of stopped the undefeated season.
Mark, what's been your favorite team so far?
I would have to say we were the GTA 5 holes. It was my rookie season. It's funny because Joe Gant was on that team.
That's right.
But Jesse Trado, he was the captain. He kind of took a gamble on me as my first year. I didn't really have a really good rookie game. I thought, you know, whatever. And then Jesse took me. And it was just a great season. We had a lot of fun, you know, and it was, that's probably my favorite team.
I'm gonna fluff your Phoenix feathers for a quick moment here, because when you were playing in that rookie game, I was on the floor for that game, and I think I might have scored 1 or 2, but I remember walking away from that, and I don't like to like give anything away, so I wasn't saying anything to any of the captains at that moment. But I remember walking up to a couple of people who were not in the room once the draft started, before you got picked. And I said, whoever picks that guy in that is going to get a steal. I could just tell playing against you that you like knew your positions and you knew where you were supposed to be. And you just had like good form and everything. I knew right away. I know you said you didn't have a good game, but there's still a feel to somebody who's like playing in net or playing on the floor. And I knew right away. I just was like, that he's going to be a good goalie for this league. So we're glad you stuck around too. But yeah. You know, you say you didn't do well, but I could tell right away. I think a couple other guys could too, including Jesse.
Yeah. So if I could kind of, sorry, piggyback off that real quick.
Yeah.
I remember watching your game too. And I feel like the goals you got scored on were kind of rebounds that you pushed off to the side. And I was like, man, like when he figures out that you just have to cover them and not, just deflect them to the side, like he's going to cut back on 90% of those goals. And I thought the same thing. I'm like, man, I really hope someone just takes a chance on him early and doesn't let him fall really late. And unfortunately, let you fall probably later than you should have. And rest is history, I guess.
Well, thank you both. Thank you both.
Yeah.
It's always hard for me to pick a favorite team. I've been around for a little while, like Brett, not as long as Brett, but one team, same thing for me. It is I'm always going to love being a part of that Cowbells team. First 8 seed to ever win the championship, but it was also my rookie season, and I got to play with Pete R. And it was, and Jeremy and a couple other guys, Dave King. And one of the things that always stood out to me from that season was that it was a very rough start for me, in that I joined the league as a goalie because it was the easiest and pretty much only way you could get into the league at the time. And I did not play great for the first couple of weeks. And we were the 8 seed pretty much solely because of me. And those guys not only kept keeping me like my head in the game, they kept me feeling good about, like, hey, don't worry about it, stuff like that. But even off the court, they did an awesome job of like getting me to feel involved right away. I got the chance to like really connect with a lot of people and feel a part of the league. And it just, it made me exactly the person I am today, and how much I love the league and want to be a part of it as much as possible and as often as possible. So I'll always have a soft spot for that. And I also want to give a quick shout out to Dinosaur, Bar Down BQ, and Firestorms, because those two teams have been among my favorite. I've even got my Firestorms shirt on for this one. Those have been some of my favorite vibes teams so far. Our Firestorms chat is still going. We still were talking like crazy all week after the draft. We even kept the team chat pinned and like renamed it the Fireside chat, and then like kept it alive. And I think we all still have more messages in there than we have with our own team chats so far. But the vibes on Dinosaur and Firestorms were just immaculate, just crazy good vibes. So last question I got for you guys is actually more of a thinking ahead. What is a theme? So we have all these themes. If you're new to watching this, or you're new to watching or being a part of the league, each season has a theme, and we've had obviously 30 of them at this point. What's a theme that hasn't been done yet that you would love to see? How about Brett?
Man, this is making me feel like I've been around way too long in this too, because I feel like we've hit every single theme I could possibly think of. I guess maybe I'll answer it in a different way. I wish we could do the video game one over again. It's not hating on not hating on any of the captains, but I feel like we could have gone a little better with the names, which, maybe that's just me. And like, I'm a big video game guy. So I had very specific like team names that I was like, oh, I would do this. I would do this. So I don't know, maybe splitting hairs and being a little egotistical, I guess, but I feel like we could do it better if we ran it back. You can get some funnier names, and I don't know.
No, that's a good way to look at it. If you can't, I know it's probably hard to think of a theme at this point that maybe hasn't happened yet, but yeah, if you can't think of one, what's one you wouldn't mind redoing is another way to answer that question. Mark, what do you think? Is there a theme we haven't done yet that you'd like to see, or a theme that you'd like to try to have a redo with, so to speak, like Brett said?
Was there ever a theme of just movies? I know there were like scary movie theme, but was there ever one that was just pick any movie?
I don't think so. I think we did a sci-fi, which I think was where the Star Wars one came into. But as far as I know, I don't think we. That or I don't know, piggyback, we could do like TV shows.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Be a good
like
one.
famous TV shows.
Yeah, I don't think we've done a strictly just movies one though.
Yeah, you're right. I think we originally, when we did the draft preview, we called it the space season, but I think you're right, it was sci-fi, and I think a lot of people went the movie route with that. But that still is a very like kind of narrow genre to pick from. So in general, I don't know if there's ever been like a TV or movies season. But those are good ideas too.
I know he did SNL, but again, that's like a super specific one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's funny because I had this question lined up for both of you guys, and then I was thinking about how I couldn't really come up with much on my own. Like I was like trying to think like, well, what am I going to answer? I gotta think of, something too. And it was hard for me to think because there's been so many. And one of the ones that did come to my mind though, Mark, was movies. I was kind of thinking, some sort of movie or film, real, I don't know, TV or movies season would be pretty cool. But then I was also thinking another one that would be kind of interesting might be like, I don't know how to describe this the right way, but like a USA themed season. So like different like landmarks or like well-known things about the United States themed season. So like you could have like people who are picking like the Grand Canyon or different places worth visiting, something like that. But I know we kind of did that with Rochester, and had like all the Rochester themes, but maybe something a little bit bigger. And heck, why not go worldwide with it and do something. There's only 7 wonders of the world though, and we would need 8 of them, but wonders of the world would be kind of a cool theme too. So,
So, sorry, one that I just thought of, I could totally go off the rails, so I don't think we can actually use it. But what about like former players from RFHL past that like don't play anymore?
oh, okay. Yeah, that'd be a good
Like
one.
I said, I feel like that could get bad really quickly. So, but it would just be interesting to see like kind of looking back, I guess, on guys you forgot about that, played for a season or played multiple seasons and no longer play. Like, do like Gaffey's VDAC or something? If the people know.
Joe Gant's hair.
Joe Gant's hair, exactly. See,
Yeah.
maybe we could do it then and make it just have some ground rules on what you can what you can name it.
I had joked in the preseason when we were talking about things. I had joked with Sweet, and I know it's been a joke that's gone around a couple of times about trying to get it started or restarted. I think maybe there was even an attempt to do it once before. But another thing that would be kind of fun to do would be a fantasy RFHL season. But I mean fantasy like fantasy football, but it's fantasy RFHL. And so what you could do is you could also tie in not only the season theme being like fantasy teams where, most people will draft their fantasy team and then name their team after like a player that they draft, right? So what if we did that for the RFHL where like you name your team with a pun using one of the players you draft? Like my fantasy football team is To Infinity and Bijan. But you could do that with fantasy RFHL, but then also on the side have a fantasy RFHL league and like tie in the stats that we're keeping now and go from there. That might be kind of a fun theme to do for a season. So I don't know. But hey, any other comments about the matchups this week? Any of the questions we answered so far? Hey, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you answer. Hey, what was your favorite logo? What's your favorite, team names in the past or themes that have occurred? What's the favorite team you've ever played on? But guys, both of you, before we wrap up, Mark, any last words on the matchups this week or the draft or anything that we've talked about so far?
No, just excited to get started. Can't wait.
Brett, how about you? Any last words? Anything you got?
I don't know, not to be sappy, but just feeling fortunate that we get another season. This is one of the things I look forward to every single week. Having a kid, especially, we kind of talked, me and the fiance, about like, okay, what things are we gonna have to cut back on? What things are we, non-negotiables that we're still doing? And I was like, well, Wednesdays I'm playing hockey. Like anything else, whatever. But Wednesdays I got to be at Derek Katora. So
I will say that there is a lot of RFHL lore tied to players winning a cup the same seasons that they've won a baby. I have
that counts.
I have a picture of my oldest in the cup right after winning it. Literally, she was born like 3 days before the finals. And so I have a picture of her in the cup. And so, hey, baby in the cup, gotta keep that picture alive. So Brett, maybe this is your season just by design.
I don't know. It might be too big for the cup.
All right. So hey,
we'll make it work.
I want to thank you guys for joining me tonight. I know that we had a lot to talk about. I know that it's tough to do week 1 predictions because nobody's seen these teams yet, but I appreciate you guys joining me. Hopefully we'll have you back sometime real soon on the chat. And I guess all I've got left to say is it Wednesday yet?